A plummet from the heavens for the second time in 3 hours. I make a splash against the water, yet my stomach sinks even further. Oh, I'm gonna be doing this again? It's the problem with sequels, their diminishing nature. You can't just retread the ground you've already taken, you have to go further, it has to be bigger, faster, stronger. Tears of the Kingdom is not afraid to make these changes. There's more stuff to explore, more enemies to face, more people to save. And yet, in making these changes without the consideration of the consequences, I think the game has lost a little bit of what made its predecessor so special. Even the simple act of moving around has changed. Sure, this is a Hyrule that is the same, and reversal, this is a Hyrule with a lot of changes, but I actually think the most significant change in Hyrule is how you explore it. That is to say, not like how you did in its predecessor. No longer are you constrained to the ground. Unlike the clambers of old, the new towers now slingshot you into the sky, allowing you to battle bus it to effectively any location on the map in a matter of minutes. The Kingdom of Hyrule cut down to size. Having this omnipotent view of the world does much to trivialize it. Instead of a contiguous world, Tears of the Kingdom features satellites of places that you can reach at a moment's notice. The fact that almost everything is approached from the air means there are no corners with which to hide surprises round. The act of discovery in Tears of the Kingdom feels a lot more superficial. Take the depths, for example. Discovering the depths and the fact that the depths exists is probably the best part about the depths, because the depths is the ultimate concept. A great idea in theory, but, well, I mean, it's dark, you can't see anything. If you took issue with the loop of Tower Shrines Tower in Breath of the Wild, then you will not be a fan of the depths, a place that is practically impossible to operate in without the use of the light routes. And then, when the darkness is lifted, you'll realise why it was so dark in the first place. There's nothing there. A few landmarks for quests and enemies to fight and a few deposit of resources, which I suppose leads me on to my next issue. Tears of the Kingdom is now a numbers game. There's an overwhelming amount of different resources to manage. You have to keep track of your Korok Seed, Light of Blessings, Zonites, Zonite Charges, Big Zonite Charges, Big Zonite, Bubble Gems, Pony Points, Pose, Energy Cells, Sage's Wills, Rupees, Bright Bloom Seeds, Arrows, Silver Bokoblin Horn, Bomb Flowers, Big Wheels. Not only are there more resources to manage, but it's more imperative that you actually manage them. You better be keeping track of every single piece of Zonite that gets dropped on the ground unless you want your machines to have a battery life of about 6 seconds. Venturing into the depths, make sure you stock up on Bright Bloom Seeds. Want to purchase an item of clothing? Fuck you. But it's clear that Nintendo isn't interested in appropriately balancing these numbers. Resources are either so ridiculously abundant that you'll never be in danger of running out, so long as you're vaguely frugal with your usage, or so sparse that every investment turns into a Chidian nightmare of indecision. 20 rupees for holding up a sign, 1,000 for a helmet. The 1% are eating well in this world. I can't help but think that some of this stuff should have been toned down. I don't know what bubble gems even do, and I've literally seen the end credits for this game. Why not put Korok Seeds in the bin and try something else? Did we really need an expansion of the stable system? What was wrong with, like, hey, here's a horse? No longer is this a world that's fueled by discovery, but one that runs on things and stuff and numbers. Contrasting to the wanderlust of Breath of the Wild, the world of Tears of the Kingdom feels like something you have to economically prepare for. Building your Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts machine costs you resources that you need to spend at least some time gathering. Exploring the depths is an investment of Bright Bloom Seeds. Trekking through gloom-filled locations will cost you sunflowers. Tears of the Kingdom is at its best when it's returning to Monkey. When you let yourself get lost for hours at a time. When you don't have to worry about the numbers. Collecting the Light of Blessings, the Spirit Orb equivalents, is thankfully done in exactly the same way as before, through the shrines. They're back, and about the same, by which I mean completely different, because your powers are completely different. It's more about the doodads this time round, yeah, that's what they're called, it's written on the design document, and using and or constructing an appropriate doodad to help you solve the puzzle. It's the closest I've felt to Portal 2 since Portal 2. Each shrine is a puzzle, it's a true puzzle, it's a test chamber that stretches your knowledge of the game's systems. Compared to Breath of the Wild, the verbs have compounded. You can grab anything, you can stick anything together, you can ascend to any overhanging platform. And Nintendo have taken an interesting approach to dealing with this ramping complexity by not dealing with it. If you have a way to cheese the shrine, be it an item in your inventory or a quirk in the game engine, Mr. Aonuma is not gonna throw you in jail. You can do whatever you like. The important thing in each shrine is getting Link from the start to the finish. How you do it, they couldn't care less. There are these pressure pad things on the walls that you usually have to navigate some kind of object to hit the pressure pad and open the door, but spoiler alert, you can just bomb the pressure pad. It's the equivalent of Indiana Jones shooting the man. If you have a creative way of solving the shrine, then by all means solve it. But oh no, unintended side effect. Now you're no longer there to solve the puzzle in a controlled environment, you're looking for the quickest way through to the end. I might not want to figure out how your elaborate puzzle works, sorry Akira Furukawa. I might just stick a few things together and build the longest bridge known to man and shoot the thing and oh look at that, I'm done. It's a wonderful novelty at first, but I'm not so sure that this kind of thinking is conducive to long-term play. It's a little strange, like they saw the thing that people did in Breath of the Wild where you could turn the maze upside down and kind of just ran with that. But the special thing about that was that it was a one-off, it was a singular moment. Much like Dr. Henry Jones shooting the man, it's not as cool if he shoots the man every time. Eventually the victories you get from cheesing the shrines ring a little hollow. You've not outsmarted the game, it was rigged this way from the start. The shrines of Breath of the Wild, and yes, many of the shrines of Tears of the Kingdom, succeed because of their restrictions. While a massive open world rages outside, the comfort of the shrines let the player express their creativity in a way that can still be closely monitored. Many of the new systems in Tears of the Kingdom are a bit too open-ended for this kind of limitation. Indeed, you can see the contrast in the much welcome naked shrines. Shrines where it's just you, your powers, and maybe a few starting items. Anything brought in from the Kingdom of Hyrule is left at the door. These are easily some of the best shrines in the game because they're designed in such a way that you have everything you need from the start. There is just enough control of the variables that you don't get the aforementioned hollow victory, but not too constrained that you can't flex your creative muscles. It's a shame then that all of these shrines are combat oriented. Why not go all the way, make every shrine naked? You already can't take your spirit buddies in or use your portable doodads. I mean, it would go a long way towards making the shrines feel more rewarding, forcing me to engage with the puzzles rather than clumsily making it to the end. The ethos of the shrines is also leaked out into the open world. The entire map of Skylands could be considered their larger siblings, it being imperative that you make use of your new box of tricks. It works in the sky because these places are specifically built around it and offer some of the more interesting hours you'll spend in Hyrule, even if their potential doesn't feel fully realised. I don't know why I pronounced Hyrule like that. The same cannot be said for the traditional overworld. The often hilly terrain isn't all that suitable for any kind of driving, save for a sprinkling of conveniently placed Korok bus stops. It's all just a bit too fiddly, I'm afraid. It's not a natural extension of Link like the new powers are. It's an investment of resources for a rather minimal return in a pragmatic sense, and even from a not pragmatic sense, I much prefer the creativity of the shrines and the dungeons. I think these additions are just a bit too much of a dramatic shift. Which is fine of course, but then the entire design has to be considered. The structure of Tears of the Kingdom doesn't do much to accommodate this shift. It's more of the same, or even a regression, to the point where I got bored with Tears of the Kingdom remarkably quicker than I did with its predecessor. And I think one of the major culprits is the game's framing. Defeat Ganon. That was your goal in Breath of the Wild. It's right there, you can see Hyrule Castle looming in the distance. It's your only goal. Everything you do in Breath of the Wild serves to make Link more powerful and ultimately furthers this goal. Tears of the Kingdom's goal is a little less structured. You're tasked with finding Zelda, which, if you've played for more than a few hours, is not really what the game wants you to do. Like, you're not playing GeoGuessr here. Clearly, Zelda is up to some bullshit, and then, okay, that's kind of it. You're on your own. There's definitely less of a sense of urgency in this one, but that also means there's less motivation. Here you have a world full of stuff, and some of it is interesting, some of it is fun to explore. Look, there's a maze up here, and a maze down there, and a little boss even further down there. And then you go to Hateno Village, and there's an election going on, and it's like, why should I care? The quintupling of side quests is a problem, because most of them, let's be honest, are not that compelling. I don't want to get a Staminoka Bass for a small child. I don't want to help a farmer find their missing tools. I don't care about the Yiga clan. The quests were arguably one of the weakest elements of Breath of the Wild, and I see no improvement here. I just see more of it. They've gone from ignorable to almost centre stage. Players of Breath of the Wild used to be able to stand on their own, whereas in Tears of the Kingdom, many of them are problems for our hero to solve. I'm not saying that the sense of wonder from Breath of the Wild is entirely gone, but it's marred by the more conventional open world model of hoovering up icons and checking boxes. Which leads us on to the main quest itself. It doesn't quite work. I don't even mean the narrative, but the way that narrative is delivered. It's the same as Breath of the Wild with flashbacks dotted around the map. But this time it's mandatory, you have to do it. Rather than a backdrop and insight on the world you inhabit, it's essential reading. It's been 6 years, we live in a post-Outer Wilds universe. Is this really the best way Nintendo can deliver their narrative? You could say that the narrative is not the point of Breath of the Wild, but it is in Tears of the Kingdom. How else are you going to get your closure? When your time in Breath of the Wild is done, you can close it out pretty quickly. A final run through Hyrule Castle and congratulations, go and do something else. Tears of the Kingdom, it keeps going. The final run through Hyrule Castle is not final, it opens up to more things, more stuff, even some of the side quests are upgraded to mandatory. To follow the main questline you have to pick up the Master Sword and you have to defeat the Yiga clan. I can't help but think all of this would have worked in a more conventional Zelda game that can be properly paced and balanced. But here it doesn't fit. Nintendo are trying to have their cake and eat it. Breath of the Wild's narrative wasn't going to win any awards, but it was the perfect fit. Tears of the Kingdom tries to give you a more conventional narrative that isn't compelling, is delivered in a rather uncreative way, and is kind of antithetical to the spirit of Breath of the Wild and, indeed, Tears of the Kingdom. Again, in a post-Outer Wilds universe, I can't help but think a more organic way of solving the mystery of the missing Zelda would have been better, rather than the mini-series that we got. All of this results in a sequel to a classic that, while good, maybe even great, is not excellent. I'm not sure if I'm going to be talking about Tears of the Kingdom in 5 years' time the same way I did with Breath of the Wild. Certainly I can't see it being that same conduit of inspiration for other developers. What is there to iterate on? Is every game going to take a year longer to make now that they're going to let you glue stuff together? I can't see it happening. This isn't a complete indictment on Tears of the Kingdom either. It's a game that, ultimately, I enjoyed. I had a lot of fun playing it. Despite what I think are deep-rooted structural issues with the game, I was still able to appreciate what it does so well. Whenever I run across something I didn't like, there would be something of equal force that would bring me back in. I've not mentioned the word fuse once in this video because I think that system is brilliant. It's such an innovative way of solving the complaints people had about weapon breaking while still encouraging the player to engage with that system, maintaining an appropriate arsenal of hammers, axes, torches, and blades. In a similar vein, I love the Fallout New Vegas party member thing that they do as a reward for each of the 4 dungeons. While initially a worrying interruption to the tranquility of its predecessor, that worry fades into the background rather quickly. It's the perfect solution to those annoying combat encounters, you know the ones, right, where you just don't particularly feel like it? The new powers that you get, while fiddly to use, are a marked improvement over the economy nightmare of the ones in Breath of the Wild. And so on and so on, I could keep going. For every bad thing about Tears of the Kingdom, I could tell you a good thing, and for every good thing, I could tell you a bad thing. Like Breath of the Wild, it's a game with flaws, but unlike Breath of the Wild, I personally find those flaws a little bit more difficult to ignore. Tears of the Kingdom is good, but ultimately falls short of excellence. Hello there, thank you for watching. I feel like I have to say this with every sort of vaguely negative video that I make, but if you like Tears of the Kingdom, that's fine. I'm not mad or anything. Like I said in the video, I liked Tears of the Kingdom. This isn't a Witness situation. I think the Tears of the Kingdom is a good game that I enjoyed my 50 hours with, or however long it was. So yeah, that's it. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for watching.